Hello everyone, this is William Telford from Writing at the Edge, and I'm joined today by Terri Nixon, who is both successful and prolific as an author, has had more than 20 books published, and we're going to talk about genre because she writes across genre. And some of what she writes is historical fiction. So we're today filming in the wonderful Gothic surroundings of the Duke of Cornwall Hotel in Plymouth, a Victorian edifice. A lot of famous writers have stayed here. Some maybe have even worked in here. So we're very grateful to Duke of Cornwall letting us be in here today. And I'm going to start with Terri. Terri, so we're going to talk about genre and about your writing and about your journey of writing. Maybe tell us a little bit about your novels. Now, you brought some examples here.
I have, yeah. I've brought the first one in each series, really. So this was the first the book I ever wrote. Well, it's the first book I ever had published.
That's Maid of Oakland's Manor, published by
Piacus of Little Brown.
Yeah.
And then the Penhaligon Saga, which is based in sort of a fishing mining community down in the west coast of Cornwall, all fictitious. My agent actually hadn't realised that it didn't exist until she said to me, I tried to Google the place and I found out it doesn't exist. That's job done. Job done.
That is very good, yeah.
And this one is set in goes forward a little bit in time because this is early 1900s. This is more 1930s, glam age, kind of hotel con artists and all stuff going on. And this one is the most recent series, Pencarrock. And that is set in and around a flying school at the top of the village in this book.
And they kind of interconnect some of these. There's like about 3 books in each series, is that right?
3 books in each series, and they all intertwine with each other. So, for instance, this one, I've established a village in it, and in this series, the village has expanded and it's included a big airfield, and so it's all fictitious, but.
And these have got to have been pretty successful because the Piacus keep coming back to you and saying, let's have more, yeah?
They do, yeah, yes. I'm out of contract with them at the moment, but I have started a new series that I'm hoping that they might pick up.
Excellent.
So, yeah, they do very well in libraries, actually. They do better in libraries than they do. And so, yes, get a library.
And your first book, when did that come out?
It came out in 2013.
And so between then and now, you've written more than 20 books.
Yes.
Or had more than 20 books published.
Yes,
yeah?
More than 20 books published. And I've written more than that again. So, yeah, they're still waiting on a couple that are out there.
Now, the genre of this, discussing this chat, I thought about talking about romance, but then your books aren't really romance. They have often a romantic element in them.
They do.
And perhaps a love story in them.
Mm-hmm.
But also, the more I looked at what you'd written, you've not only written across genres, because you've followed this with fantasy and crime.
Yes.
But you also, these are hard to pigeonhole. They're a bit historical fiction. They're a bit, you call them family saga.
Yeah.
So how would you describe this?
I think the thing about family saga is it's quite misunderstood anyway. If you get a multi-generational family saga, sort of like this one, for instance, which crosses at least 10 years, you've got all sorts of elements in there that you wouldn't necessarily get in a romance with a capital R book, or a contemporary romance, because you've got social issues, you've got crime, you've got all sorts of dangerous elements and things going on. So that tends to be the personality, if you like, of a saga, is that it's because it's multi-generational and often crosses a long time period, you've got it all in there, because people are always going to be doing bad things, people are always going to be escaping from things and keeping secrets, and so they are sort of, I would say, a standard saga, but maybe with a little bit more crime than you would expect, because
So do you like the idea of pigeonholing books as genre?
No.
Or
Not at all.
Or is it something that you write a book and you think, now what genre? Because publishers love genre, is that right? They love to pigeonhole.
They have to, really, because they have to know where to put it on the shelf. So when you're pitching a new novel idea or series idea, they ask for what they call comps. So comparative titles. So you have to pick a book that's been out in the last couple of years and say, I can see this on the shelf next to X, Y, and Z. So they know straight away, that's where we're going to aim it for the marketing and everything. So they've got a direction to go in, and then sometimes they have to tweak some of the elements to make it fit. a little bit better, what they're aiming for. So, like for instance, this first one, for me, it was going to be historical fiction. There wasn't going to be any romance in it, but my editor was sort of like, "Oh, we like Jack and Lizzie. Can you do something more with them?" So I did something more with them. It's like, "Yeah, can you do a bit more?" So it did tend to be more. That's the most romantic out of all of them. The rest of them I've been able to, because that was my first.
Right.
Yes, I'll do anything. Just I'll do anything you say. But these more recent ones, I've been able to just pull it back a little bit so that it fits a little bit better with a wider genre than romance.
Do you think that though that just having a little tiny sort of smidgen of a genre in it is enough to label it? Because I've certainly read some books which have been branded as crime, and I thought these aren't very crimey.
No. And it works in reverse, because you wouldn't look at that and go, "Oh, there's going to be spies in that," and things like that. So yeah, I think having a direction to go in, like I say, that's enough to guide it to start with, and then you can sneak in other things. But I think you have to be honest when you're doing the blurb and things like that, because reviewers will not like it if you say this is a certain book and it doesn't follow those certain books, tropes and expectations. So so I was saying earlier about romance, they expect there's got to be a happy ever after. That's not for discussion. It's got to be a happy ever after, or happy for now.
So you could have a love story in a book, but if it's not, doesn't end happily, you wouldn't want to brand that as romance.
No, you will be in for some stick if you do that. You will upset a lot of people. So this is why I like to do this kind of thing where the expectations aren't quite as straightforward. So you can put somebody in a fantastically romantic relationship. You can go with them. You can have the rises and the falls. And then if you want to, you can actually do something really horrible to them. And nobody can complain, because this is not a romance with a capital R. So having a direction is good, but I prefer not to be too sort of constrained by expectations.
And aside from these books, which have been massively successful and popular, you've written, you then wrote some fantasy novels as well, which is something you really also wanted to do, yes?
Yes, because I grew up on Bodmin Moor, and we used to walk the whole time we spent out on the moors, looking at the mines and wondering what was going on. Well, I was wondering what was going on underneath them and beside them. And then I decided I was going to write about it, and that's mythic fantasy. So it's a lot of Cornish folklore mixed in with modern day life, and how humans interact with these things that they might or might not see on the moors. So yeah, that's a 4-book series, which and
some of the titles in that series
so the first one's The Dust of Ancients.
Yeah.
The second one is The Lightning and the Blade. The third one is The Battle of Lina Mill. And the fourth one is a sort of prequel called The Unquiet Dawn, and that takes it back to Civil War, Cornwall.
So. And were those fantasy, were the sort of like rules that you had to abide by, or is it a bit more freer because you can just say it's mythic fantasy and it fits into a...
Yeah, I think if I was going to a publisher with them, a traditional publisher, I might be expected to do something a little bit more streamlined. I don't really know, because I've never tried pitching them and I don't know what they'd say. But because I self-published those, complete freedom. I was able to do whatever I wanted to.
You self-published those because they were so different from these books that the publisher didn't really want to have you write in two completely different
they wouldn't
genres,
have taken,
sort of thing,
Yeah, the publisher wouldn't have published them anyway, because it's a different... They don't publish that sort of a book anyway. But my agent was definitely like, no. She was very supportive of that, to be honest. She said, well, I like them, but I don't think we'll be able to get them to a traditional publisher. So you go ahead and do that. Do what you want there, and we'll just concentrate on these sagas. So that's what we did.
And what about crime? Because you write crime as well.
Yes.
And you write that under three different names. Well, no, two different names. Two different names.
My first trip, my family in Scotland in the Highlands, and so when we we're in the clown room, which is lovely, so the first time I went there, I was completely just blown away by it, because they do live right out in the mountains. And I came home, this was early 90s, came home thinking, I need to write something. I need to put somebody up in that field there and not let them be able to get out. It was just one of those moments. So back in the early 90s, I wrote this Scottish crime novel, put it away for 10 years or so, dragged it out and then updated it, and put it out under a pseudonym, just R.D. Nixon, which is my two sons' initials, Rob and Dom, and my own surname, and did a 3-part contemporary Scottish crime series, which I loved. So yeah.
Did you self-publish those ones, or
no? They went through an independent publisher.
Yeah,
but they're not like a hybrid publisher. They've got traditional.
Is that a crime publisher? Is that?
Yeah, Hobeck.
Yeah.
They do a lot of it. It's mostly focused on crime, thriller, and that kind of thing. But I'm currently now bringing it back home, and I'm writing a Devon set series.
So that's your new one.
That's my new one. Yeah.
And that'll be under a different name again.
That'll be under T.H. Nixon.
Yeah.
Because the R.D. Nixon name is being retired. I'm re-releasing the Scottish one under TH as well, and TH in my initials, Teresa Hallam. So.
And just to make things even more complicated, you've also co-written with another writer called Shelley Clark, is that right?
Yes.
As Clark Nixon.
Clark Nixon.
So a fictitious author with both your names.
So
yeah. And that is a kind of again sort of science fiction-y type.
Yeah, it's
type series.
Sort of, it's kind of religious conspiracy meets archaeological thriller, and a bit science fiction in there because there's all sorts of things going on with viruses and DNA and things like that. It's Shelley's story through and through. It's her, she's been, like I was with my Lionel Mill books, she has been living with this story, and we got talking as we used to work together, and she said, "Oh, do you want to read it and see if we can do anything with it?" And so I read it, and I thought, yes, we can. So she would send me, this is what happens in this chapter, and then I would write the chapter to kind of flesh it out and give it some life and everything. And so we've just finished the trilogy of that. So
and
that's
is that
Children
published?
of Sinai. We've self-published that.
Yeah.
So Children of Sinai, The Sixth Fire. And I've actually forgotten the title of the last book. But so that's finishing out there now. Yeah. So it's childrenofsinai.com is the website. So
you've written, very much get the impression though, these books are all books you wanted to write.
Yeah.
And you've been lucky, well not lucky, but the way you've done it is you've written the book you wanted to write, but you've then found a genre to put it into in order to get it to the market. Yeah. Yes,
it is. The weird thing is though, this first one that I wrote, The Maid of Oakland's Manor, I'd always said I would never write anything historical. I remember doing a interview or a writing thing years ago, and they said, "What genre would you never write?" And I was like, "Historical. Never write anything historical." And then I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And when I came out of that, I thought, I've always wanted to write something about some of my grand's stories. She was in service between the wars, so she's very much downstairs, Downton Abbey. And I wanted to write something around some of her experiences, and it evolved into Maid of Oakland's Manor, which is not about her experiences at all in the end. It just took off, went off on its own. But, having gone from I'll never write anything historical, I've now got 10 traditionally historical published historical novels.
Now, for writers starting off, what would your advice be? Would it be best to write the book you want to do like you have, and then think how you're going to pitch it, in what sort of genre, how you, like you say, how you're going to tell agents and publishers this is where it should sit on the bookshelves? Or is it better to say, or do you think they should say, this genre is selling well at the moment, I'll target my book and try and write it into that genre?
I think that's a mistake, only because it changes so quickly, and the reading public is very fickle, and whatever they're told they like, they tend to gravitate towards, and then they find they do like it. So if publishers decide that there's going to be a trend going towards, currently it's romantasy, so fantasy romance with shapeshifters and vampires and werewolves and whatever, that's huge at the moment. But if you start looking at that and then say, "Oh, I'm going to write a shapeshifter romance and do it as a romantasy," it could change in a month, 6 months, a year. By the time you've written it, pitched it, edited it, and it's gone out there, you could be, romantasy could be 6 miles behind you. So I think the best thing to do is to write what you know you want to read, and then have a look at how it's coming out. You can always, there's so many critique groups online on Facebook and on other places where you can swap. You can sort of do a reciprocal read somebody else's book, and they can come back and with their ideas and say, well, this is really good, but I think it's actually a young adult romance, or I think this is actually a conspiracy thriller or something like that.
That's interesting, yeah.
Then I think is the time to start, it's got more of those elements than it has of those. That's what I'll pitch it as.
So asking other people where they would see it when they, as readers, can help you. Yeah.
Beta readers, they're called, and they are really valuable. If you can get a good beta reader, who'll come back and say, that's great, but it's not enough of one or the other.
And you can find those on websites?
Lots of groups, I would advise not paying for them, because there are people who will do it for free, and especially, like as I say, if it's a reciprocal, they say, well, you read mine, I'll read yours, we'll swap, we'll give each other honest feedback. So there are a lot of ways of getting feedback without paying people to tell you what they think you want to hear. So that's dangerous.
And I guess some genres, I mean, crime has been probably the number one or number two genre for maybe more than 100 years. Or going back to Sherlock Holmes, and the first novel was one of the first novels, Moonstone, was it? It was crime, that seems to never go away. There's others that, again, we were talking about romance. That never seems to go away.
That's never going away.
Sci-fi and horror have got their, they go up and down, but they're always there.
There's always
for instance, so maybe pitching your book into a sort of more steady genre than saying, oh, it's romantasy, or vampire fiction was huge 10 years ago, and Harry Potter type magical books were, those things moved on, didn't they?
They do, but I think if you start looking too deep into subgenres, that's when you start moving into sticky territory. If you take the broader ones, like you say, crime, horror, and they can all have different elements of different genres in them. But if you've got a basic, like I was saying earlier, if you say, I'm going to write a shapeshifter romance, or blah, blah, blah. If you think to yourself, well, hang on, I'll just write a fantasy. And if there's romantic elements in it, I'll exaggerate them and I'll describe what, kind of shapeshifters we're talking about. But I think if you drill down too far and aim at those sub-genres too much, I think that's probably going to be the sort of thing that ends with you thinking, well, I've wasted all this time writing this book.
So your advice to writers who have got an idea for a novel, and something they want to really do, is find a genre they can maybe attach it to, but write the novel they want.
I think you should, always write what you know you want to be able to read, and what you think you can tackle without getting yourself stressed out about it, because you don't want to get bogged down with something that you're not enjoying writing, because you're going to have to look at that book a lot, many, many times.
And you've also got your crime books coming out. What else in the future? Are you looking at going into yet another genre, or are you going to return to the sort of writing you've been doing?
I want to carry on with the contemporary crime, but at the same time, I have started a new saga series, but they are intended to match up. So the saga is sort of going to be the backstory to the contemporary crime. I have this crime family, and this is the book I'm writing. The saga is the backstory to that.
Excellent. So you could bring some of these genres together and cross them.
One of the things I always think is that any romance book, whether it's also another kind of book, anything that's got a thread of romance in it, can always be like the prequel to a crime book. Because when you look at crime, the origin of that crime is nearly always money or love. So I always think that those can be prequels. So don't diss the romance; they're just backstory.
Right. So that could be the way the perfect romance ends.
Yeah, with a killer. Absolutely.
Well, that's probably a good place to finish. Terri, thank you so much for talking to us.
Oh, you're welcome. I've enjoyed it very much.
It's been really interesting. Really interesting learning about your writing, about the books you write, about the genres and how they work, and about the advice you've got for other writers and new writers. And so thank you very much. And Writing at the Edge, please look at us online, and look out for more videos, podcasts. We'll be doing a lot more stuff in future. And thanks very much to the Duke of Cornwall to let us here in the historic Clan Bar. Thank you.